Welcome to the groundbreaking news program that delves into the heart of Mormonism, your weekly window into the unique intersection of news, history, and culture that resonates with the tapestry of Mormonism. So whether you're tuning in from the heart of Utah or joining us from around the world, your favorite news program starts now, where news meets insight and the stories of our faith unfold.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to the Mormon Newscast. This is episode 43. Today's date, November 4th, 2024. I'm Radio Free Mormon, and I am joined as usual by my two co-hosts, Rebecca Bibliotheca and Bill Reel. How are you both this evening?
Fantastic. I can't believe that we have held it together for 43 episodes. That's incredible.
43. Oh, this is what's called holding it together?
I think so.
Well, we've been here.
We'll let the audience decide.
Bill Reel, how are you?
Life is good. Life is exceptional. I'm doing well. Thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. Well, we've got a number of stories on for tonight's show. Let's see if we can see what those are. They will be number one, single men over 40 can now serve church missions. Yes, that sound you hear in the distance is the thunderous applause of all the single men over 40 at this news. Second story, Alpine. They are happy out there in single men over 40 land. The second story is Alpine School District restricts parents' access to teacher info. And that will make a lot more sense when we get to that story. Next story, Heretic Movie. We've been waiting for this for a long time. And Rebecca Bibliotheca has some news about the Heretic Movie that it hits big and it's a big hit. See, chiasmus isn't that hard at all.
I know the newscast is true now.
Yeah, but thank you. I know it with every fiber of my being.
And then some.
The next story, dialing up President Nelson's doomsday rhetoric. And finally, rounding out tonight's newscast, sacred plus sexy garments, the reality. First story we have, the lead story is single men over 40 can now serve missions. And I'll hand that one over to Mr. Reel.
All right, here we go. In a surprising move, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is now inviting single men, ages 40 and older, to serve as full-time missionaries. This change seems aimed at providing a volunteer workforce for clerical positions and to staff temples, family history centers, mission offices, etc. However, this unusual recruitment strategy that went into effect this past Friday, November 1st, raises a few critical questions. First, the pool of eligible men in this age bracket is likely to be severely limited. Very few single middle-aged men have both the desire and the financial flexibility to step away from their careers and their lives to serve. Those who can afford it may be rare, leaving the church with a small and potentially unqualified group of applicants. There's also a concern about the type of candidates this will attract. Among single men in this age group, there tends to be a higher rate of personal challenges, including dysfunctional behaviors and lower self-awareness. This won't apply to everyone, but these factors could impact the church's ability to effectively fill positions that require maturity and professionalism and allow the church to avoid drama and distractions at best and inappropriate behaviors and even assault and abuse at worst. While the church has claimed a recent increase in missionaries, experts have pointed to that influx as a temporary bump that came as a result of COVID, and that those numbers are expected to continue to decline. The announcement appears to be a desperate move to combat these upcoming declining missionary numbers and to staff critical positions and possibly to staff temple workers as the church continues to announce temples at a staggering rate, while the membership seems to have plateaued or even declined. Is this an effort to prop up dwindling ranks and to keep operations running, even if it means taking on added risks and problems? Yet, With 450 missions worldwide, this expansion hints at a broader struggle in the LDS Church to maintain its volunteer workforce, leaving observers wondering about the Church's priorities and the implications of its recruitment tactics, including recently admonishing senior missionaries to serve more than one mission.
Now, we've invited you here tonight because we want to extend an invitation to each of you to serve. This is our Box B speaking to you tonight. Will you prayerfully consider serving 2 missions? Not 1, but 2. A full-time proselyting mission, if your health permits, and a service mission here in Utah as well. The sequence is not important, but the call to serve is crucial.
What effect this has for good or bad is yet to be seen. But here at the newscast, we can't help but wonder what the Church's long-term goal is for what it wants to become, as this appears on the surface to be a desperate measure to counter activity decline and a lack of volunteer workers. Back to you, RFM.
Excuse me. So,
He
excellent
loves that
story,
prop.
Mr.
He
Hill.
loves it.
Say
What
what?
an excellent story that was. By the way, I think we need to talk a little bit about this story because
Please.
on behalf of the newscast and any other podcast with which I may be affiliated, I want to make it clear that what we're not saying, what nobody's saying, is that every single person who at the age of 40 or 41 or 45 or 50 who is not married, hasn't been married, or is no longer married, is a danger to society.
In fact, RFM, technically you and I are in that group. Right? Like in terms of,
Yeah.
so
Your point being?
my point being to just say again what you just said is that if anyone's frustrated thinking like, how dare you guys say that about me? Not saying that about everyone,
Mhm.
but the crowd that's that age, that hasn't ever been married, there's no, you can't, I'm going to say this, you can't argue it. There is a higher percentage of some traits that may make it difficult for those folks to sort of socialize. Not every one of them, not 50%, but a higher number. And I think the Church ought to be at least aware of some of the risk of some folks in that age group that are single.
I felt it was important to make that point clear due to something that had happened. I was concerned that maybe that impression might be taken by certain members of the audience, maybe certain members in the audience who happen to be in that demographic. And then I got a rather frantic phone call from Rebecca Bibliotheca after the Mormonism After Dark episode last Friday night.
Which isn't for the faint of heart. Mormonism After Dark.
Oh, that's true.
There's a
Okay.
reason it's after dark.
Mhm.
Did you want me to talk about that phone call?
Would you
or
please?
no? Yeah, well, somebody sent me an email that had been written during Mormonism After Dark, and I have to say it really made me stop and think because it was from someone who was saying what you were just saying, Bill, and RFM, that this demographic, it might be easy to, take lightly or maybe make a joke or something, but this has been a demographic that has been disenfranchised by the Church, kind of ironically, for a long time. I think about how you couldn't be an ordinance worker if you were single and over 30 for a very long time. So the Church itself has sort of, separated this demographic for whatever reason, concern or just misunderstanding. I don't know. But this email had mentioned that on Mormonism After Dark, you guys had talked about this topic and you were having a little fun with the topic. I admit I was having fun with the topic during the day when it came out. I think people in the chat were having fun with the topic. And the email really opened my eyes to saying that, thinking that we are possibly being, as both of you mentioned, insensitive about this a little bit. And then I started to thinking about my friends that I have personally that are in this demographic, wonderful people over the age of 40, never married. Believe it or not, I started counting and I think I have like 4 or 5 friends that are male that fit into this demographic. And I realized I would never make these comments, these light-hearted comments that I admit I was also making, although not on a podcast. I would never make these about these people that I know personally. And so should I be making these about people that I don't know, just lumping everybody in together? But that being said, I think we are talking about maybe a bigger picture in a larger framework, kind of what you were talking about, Bill. So, and I got a couple emails from this person just kind of pointing it out. So I'd like to thank this person for keeping us in check, because it's true. Sometimes you get on a show and you're bantering back and forth and you're not really understanding that you're talking about real people. You're just sort of doing this overarching comedy routine kind of. So yeah, I'd like to say thank you. And please, anybody reach out with feedback like that, because we take it very seriously on all of the podcasts that we're on.
Thank you, Rebecca. And you were reading it to me and I was saying, I feel bad.
You did. I know.
I said it over and over. I actually did feel bad. I
know.
felt some human emotion. It was an unusual moment for me. So let's see what the next story is about, shall we?
Do you
Is there
guys want
anything else to say? Yes.
Do you want to say anything about that story? Obviously we addressed sort of the complaint about
Right.
anytime you pick out what issues might be there, it's easy to sort of feel like everyone's being criticized. And so I'm glad you guys addressed that. But in terms of the story, is there any thoughts from you guys? I know we addressed it already on Mormonism After Dark, but it seems like it's sort of the last group you could make room for to go on a mission, which seems to indicate the church is running out of things to do, sending seniors on 2 missions, having the 40-year-old guys go, and almost every one of them's holding down a job and a career. And
you would hope.
Yes. Are these the 40-year-old independently wealthy Mormons?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be that.
It seems like it's going to appeal to a very small number of people within that age range and that gender. And really all they want is more free labor for the church. This church is, I think, about the most wealthy church in the country. If it's not, it's pretty darn close. It's got more money than God, and yet it is so stingy and making its members work and slave for them for their entire lives for nothing. It's a remarkable contrast, really.
yeah.
Yeah, when I first heard the announcement or read the announcement, I thought, okay, this is a threefold mission. I can see threefold reasons why they would do this. Of course, the numbers of missionaries can now be reported as higher, right? And I read with the interest where they said that a bishop could make a recommendation for a person in this demographic to go on a mission. And I thought, okay, does that mean that a bishop can literally look out into the congregation and say, call someone in and say, I've kind of had a feeling, I've had an inspiration, you need to go. And that feeds right into, I went over to Faithful social media, as I often do, to see what people are thinking. And believe it or not, people over there were saying, I have had reoccurring dreams of being called back on my mission since I returned from my mission. And some of them were saying this actually makes that one step closer to being a reality, that a bishop or somebody might call someone in and say, the Lord wants you on another mission. And even over on Faithful Media, they were kind of like, I still have nightmares about this. So it was kind of interesting to read that. So, of course, to pump the numbers up somehow. I think the other thing is, of course, free labor. They specifically ask for lawyers and medical professionals. So that makes me think, I know, isn't that interesting?
They're not doing anything else in their 40s or 50s?
I don't know. And they didn't ask that of the sister missionaries of that age, which I thought was funny. So there's some different responsibilities that they're saying these people, but they specifically spelled out lawyers and medical professionals, making me think that they just want these people to go and work for the church.
This might be the reason they have that condition in there of no dependence.
Exactly. That could be it. So obviously free labor, we thought of that. And then I have another sneaking suspicion. So I felt when they changed the missionary age to make boys and girls going on missions closer in age, I felt that was to get them married to each other. And anecdotally, I have seen this. People return, the age difference is not that far off, and they do marry each other, or they marry someone in their district. So what about this idea sending older singles, I say older, they're only 40. Oh my gosh. Older singles out together, they connect, they meet, and, maybe magic happens. Yeah. And then you have a faithful couple, right? Because that's another reason. Why might these men find themselves in this position? What if it's a mixed faith marriage? And as we see all the time, there's a divorce, right? So you have this faithful, perhaps husband. What do you do with him? You send him on a mission where he meets a faithful sister. So I don't know. That's my conspiracy theory, that it could be a matchmaking effort. And maybe it's all three. I don't know.
That's a great idea, because it's
Yeah.
exactly the opposite of how I was always taught a mission was about. It was to stay away from the other sex.
That makes it all the more intriguing, though, doesn't it? Those glances across the leadership meetings. I mean,
Well, I was never in leadership.
Oh, well, there you go.
Hence no leadership meetings, hence no glances.
Well, maybe people were glancing at you and you didn't know. Of course, on your mission, there were no sisters in leadership, right? So, are you alternating your cigarette and your pipe? Every time I look at you, you've got.
I just thought that was. I thought that was kind of funny. It was a gag. I
funny.
think everybody got that right. It was pretty obvious. And if you haven't been watching Mormonism After Dark, where I explained this at length, or Radio Free Mormon, which released Saturday night, where I explained this at length, then you can go back and find out. But if you look at it closely, it's not really smoking.
Yeah, it's a fake one.
Yeah.
Hey,
Sent to me by a wonderful listener as a prop.
by the way, it's to the point now where a human being is required to serve 3 missions and maybe 4. So you can see a situation where someone will serve a mission as a teenager, an old, 18, 19, 20, young adult, go as a 40-year-old man because the bishop asked him to get him moved on to that, to give him a new experience. And then you're supposed to serve 2 senior missions. This thing asks a lot of you. 10% of your gross income, 4 missions, go to the temple, go to all the meetings, go to 2-hour. I mean, you almost have to have church reduced at this point to make it up over a lifetime. Anyway.
Yeah, you might think, since they ask everything of you, that they might do you the courtesy of telling you the truth about the organization that they're asking you to sacrifice your entire life for.
It's the least they could do.
It would be cricket.
Yeah.
All right. So the next story is controversy in Alpine School District. I understand that Rebecca actually lives in that school district and attends at the high school there. See, the issue is this: is Alpine School District being transparent in providing information to parents regarding teachers who have already been found to have committed bad acts against students? That is the controversy in a nutshell. And I guess, I'm sorry, this is Bill, you're the one in charge?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you could play this, this is a news story about what's going on. It's remarkable. And while this is playing, I'd like the audience to think, and we'll talk a little bit about it, what this has to do with the church. First off, Rebecca, I understand that Alpine is pretty Mormon-centric. Is that right?
It is pretty Mormon-centric, yes. I have been in the Alpine School District for 22 years. All my kids went through the school system there. And yes, I would say it is predominantly LDS as far as teachers and other parents and just everyone anywhere.
And I want to make it clear that I'm not saying that this is happening only because it's in a Mormon-centric school district. It could happen in other places. But this is a Mormon-centric school district, and it is reminiscent of things that the Mormon Church itself does. Rotate.
It's borderline protecting pedophiles from what I'm seeing on here. Grooming kids. This should be public knowledge. What do you got to pay for this for?
For months now, the Fox 13 News Investigates team has been reporting on teachers who have already been disciplined by the Alpine School District. And now the district is trying to charge Fox 13 News close to $400 in fees for records related to grooming, sexual misconduct, and violence against students.
Parents say they think it's a way for the district to hide information related to the safety of their children. Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbetz picks up the story.
I mean, this could be happening in my child's high school.
This is James Gaffney, and in his hand is a list of graphic cases given to us by the State Board of Education.
Yeah, I mean, it's not okay.
teachers who have already been disciplined by the state for sexual misconduct against children.
You shouldn't have anything sexual in front of kids.
Neither of us have any idea how many of those cases happened within Utah's largest school district, because Alpine is keeping those public records behind a paywall. $85 for sustained cases of grooming, $102 for boundary violations, $85 for sexual misconduct, and $102 for violence against students.
If it's happening, then it needs to be dealt with. It shouldn't be covered up.
The law says records that would benefit the public should be provided for free.
What other example do you need other than parents should know this?
But Alpine doesn't see it that way.
You would agree parents have a right to this information, right?
Well, it depends on the information. Some information is confidential. They don't have a right to it.
Sarah Hacken is the president of the school board.
You, as a station, are looking to district on teachers.
Well, we're not the ones who discipline them.
It's not, you're just trying to make the teachers look bad. Yeah, they made themselves look bad because they did it.
You know, our teachers are doing the best job they can. They're not perfect. Sometimes they make mistakes. We do what we can.
Hacken wouldn't say whether she thinks there's a public benefit for parents to have access to this information.
They're just unaccountable to parents. They don't feel that they need to.
Anne-Marie Gordon is a mom who is concerned with teachers grooming kids and with the lack of transparency on her children's school board. She says when she requested public records from Alpine related to other issues, she also ran into roadblocks.
Grooming happens very slowly, and it is done very carefully. If that can help protect a child, then I think that is in the public's best interest. And the reality is the more times that news media outlets expose this type of information, if it gets out there, believe me, teachers or whoever, right? They won't do it. It won't happen in the first place.
We need so many to come to these board meetings and lift their voices about this.
Now, most school districts have already supplied this information to us for free. They say they're committed to taking swift action against teachers who harm children, but some districts are charging even more than Alpine. If you'd like to see the full list of cases, it's on our website, fox13now.com. Reporting in studio, Adam Herpetz, Fox 13 News, Utah.
So there's that story. I went and found a little bit more information about what's going on there, and that would be in the next slide. Yeah. USBE, which is the Utah State Board of Education, it was referred to in the story, has not provided a list of names or districts. So apparently all they do is they have all these different cases involving teachers who have been found to have committed. Now, that's not an illegal proceeding. That's in an employment proceeding. That they are sustained cases is what it's called there. That means the allegation of what they were alleged to have done was sustained by whatever governing body made that decision. USBE has not provided a list of names or districts. So the names of the people or the district names or the school names are not provided. It could be anywhere in Utah. And Alpine continues to hold disciplinary records behind a paywall. Alpine is charging $85 for sustained cases of grooming. One of the things I don't know about this is if you have to supply the name of the teacher, or if you're paying an $85 fee for them to make produce documents to anybody in that school or school district who has a sustained case of grooming. $102 for sustained cases of boundary violations, $85 for sustained cases of sexual misconduct, $102 for sustained cases of violence against students. So that's it. It's an interesting story, and I think it's troublesome to a lot of people, especially when we've got parents out there who I believe have a good argument that they have a right to know what the heck's going on with their kids and with the teachers of their kids. Someone, I think her first name was Joan, had made a comment below saying she's a teacher in Utah. She can't believe that a teacher who's had something like this sustained against them still is able to have a job teaching in Utah. And, you know, I don't know that they necessarily do still have a job teaching in Utah. So It's a question. The next slide will show us a few examples. So it's when it says case 1896, that could be the number of the case. It's Utah statewide. Case 1896, an educator spent alone time with a student having inappropriate conversations and providing alcohol to the minor student on 3 occasions. Case number 1901, an educator had an inappropriate relationship with a high school student, which included private travel together and getting matching tattoos. Case number 1924. Once again, I could see a lot of these things ending up in the termination of the employment of a teacher. But of course, as a parent, wouldn't you want to know if your child had ever been taught by that teacher or under the influence or in a class taught by that teacher in the past? Case number 1924. An educator touched students inappropriately, including touching a student's genitals over her pants while she was babysitting in the educator's home. The educator also contacted students over social media. Case number 1936. There's only 2 more that we have up here. An educator described a student's behavior as hot and took questionable photos of students in a yearbook class. You know, looking at case number 1924, actually looking at all of these, but some of these are obviously more outrageous than others. I thought that guy in the parking lot in the blue shirt in the news clip was overacting. But now I look at this and I start thinking maybe he's really not overacting because this is pretty atrocious. Case number 1936, an educator. Oh, I already read that one. Case number 1810, the last one. An educator kissed a female student after a school activity. The educator also exchanged messages with the student on social media and met up with the student off campus, giving inappropriate gifts and exchanging inappropriate photos. So the people in the Alpine School District are trying to find out if any of the teachers who were found or sustained to have committed these kinds of acts ever were teaching at Alpine, because they can't get that for some reason from the Utah State Board of Education. And then in response to that, the Alpine School District is putting all this stuff behind a paywall, obviously in order to discourage people getting access to the information, as well as making it into a little fundraiser for them. Here are some districts that are charging even higher fees than Alpine. Weber State District, $401.76 for records related to boundary violations and violence with students. Nebo School District, $385 for records related to violence with students, boundary violations, and sexual misconduct, by the way. I get the impression that each of these is a specific category. It's almost like a box you have to check to request those types of records from the school district. But Davis School District, wow, $4,320 for records related to cyberbullying, retaliation, boundary violations, violence with students, grooming, and sexual misconduct. But Tooele County School District seems to take the prize, $6,651.05 for a similar assortment of records as those requested in the Davis School District. Amazing, isn't it? I think that's the last slide on this. Can you check that, Bill? Yeah. So I think it's fascinating. And the reason I brought this up, and I was talking with Rebecca before the show about, does this really have a connection with Mormonism? I mean, we're not a local Utah news station, but I think it does. And it really struck me when I first heard this. First off, having been a lawyer for 34 years, full-time, and how this offends my sensibilities of transparency and what government agencies are required to do and what they're supposed to do. I've made many public disclosure requests in my career as a lawyer, as well as podcasting. And this is outrageous, absolutely outrageous. And it makes it look like they're hiding the teachers who have done bad things. And they're not letting the parents know who they are. And that just strikes me as fundamentally Wrong, wrong, wrong. What do you think about this, Mr. Real?
Well, first, when they asked the lady, I don't know if she was on the school board or what.
She was the head of the school board.
They asked her if this information should be available. And she said, well, not all information should be available. It's confidential. Well, we're not talking about confidential information. We're talking about information that you can purchase and get access to. Confidential information is inaccessible no matter how much you pay.
Yes.
So it was, she did an Elder Bednar there and she changed the question.
Good point.
When you put that information behind a paywall, it seems like, one, you make it harder for the school to be accountable. You make it harder for the teachers to be accountable, and you make it easier for things to happen to your kid and you never know about it. And to not know what your kid might have a teacher that's done things in the past with other students. And then these exorbitant prices, I mean, the $4,000 and the $6,000 are just insane, but even $300 and $400 is a crazy amount to be able to check on the safety of your child. This should be just free information.
I agree. Now, I understand that if you're working for a company, right, and you've got your employee file, and maybe some things happened and you got a letter in your file or something happened and negative stuff in your file. And if you work in a company, then that stuff is private because it doesn't have to get out there. The problem is that this is the government, and the government is required under the law to be transparent. There are certain exceptions. Actually, there's a lot of exceptions to that, but those are the exceptions to the rule. The rule is transparency, and the rule is producing the documents that have been requested free of charge. All right. You're already getting tons and tons of tax money off the people in Alpine School District. You don't need, and actually you're forbidden under the law to be charging for this stuff. What do you think about it, Rebecca?
Well, my first reaction, given that I've spent a lot of time, decades in the Alpine School District, and knowing that it is predominantly LDS, I thought, what are these parents doing? They are saying, why can't I know what kind of person my child is interacting with? Why can't I know who's teaching my child? Why can't I know who's taking my child on a field trip? Why can't I know anything about the adults that are interacting with my child? And they're pretty adamant about it. And then I think, when you go to church on Sunday, does your mind even go there that you think about the people there that are doing the same kinds of things with your child in close proximity, teaching, perhaps activities outside? They don't ask those questions. There's no news story where they're petitioning the church. Please do background checks. Please let us know. Please put people through some kind of screening who are going to work with the youth. So, and I don't know if they even make that connection or think about it, but they care about their children, as we all do. It seems like that kind of scrutiny should obviously then continue on to anybody that your child is working with, but they're not holding the church to task on that. I don't know. Had you guys seen it that way at all?
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. It's almost like that guy in the blue shirt, okay? Let's say he's going to the LDS church. He's a member. He's got kids who go to their various classes. And then he gets a hold of the Floodlit report.
Yep.
Then let's further, by the way, Floodlit, if you don't know, is like the LDS version of Spotlight. It's online. It collects and collates all the different reports and convictions of LDS people for, basically it's for child sexual assault. That's mainly it. There might be some other things around there, but it is long and it's vast. I mean, it covers, I think, pretty much decades, but still it's so long. I think it took an entire weekend. I think Maven was in charge of that a couple of conferences ago, and she just had people read the whole thing, right? Different people would read for an hour. And it took the entire weekend. That's how many there are in there. But it's as if this guy got a hold of the Floodlit report, but the Floodlit report didn't say the names of the people, and it didn't say where they lived and where they went to church. Wouldn't you be saying, where are these people? Are any of them in my ward? Are any of them in my stake? Are any of them teaching my children? Yeah, I can definitely see where this guy's coming from.
Yeah, I think they just don't make the connection when it comes to church. I mean, I've talked about this before myself as a child, a 12-year-old, 13, being driven to bishop's interviews at a bishop's house and having the kind of horrific experience a lot of us had. And I guarantee you, my dad, who's a wonderful person who drove me to these interviews, never thought I might be putting her in harm's way with this person. I wonder if I should look into the background of this person. Never thought, never crossed his mind once. And I'm sure he would have thought of that if it were a school scenario, another kind of a scenario in the community where someone was asking to be alone in a room in their home with this 12-year-old daughter. But when it comes to church, there are blinders.
Yes, there are. Very good. I think you have the next story as well, Rebecca. There's a new movie coming out this weekend. Is that right?
We have been podcasting about this movie ever since it was first announced, and now it has hit the theaters. It's opened in the UK already a week during last week, and in some special screenings throughout the US. So I know Nemo did a really awesome review of it, I think yesterday or the day before, so you guys can all check that out, because being in the UK, he got to see it first. So we're talking about the movie Heretic. It hits the theaters, and Heretic is reviewed here in this article by a former LDS missionary. And this is important because this movie is actually about LDS missionaries and proselytizing and visiting people in their homes. And this is ABC4 News. It says,
Rebecca,
yes.
Do we need a spoiler alert?
Oh, no, I'm not giving any spoilers because I haven't seen it. So I don't have any spoilers to give.
Okay, and there's none in this article.
Nope, there's none in this article whatsoever.
Okay,
nope, it's just a very general sort of concept article. Nope.
Because I was going to have to turn off the show for a few minutes.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, if you really don't want to know anything about it and go in completely blind, not even the context of it, then I guess turn it off. But yeah, I haven't seen it and I don't feel it's been spoiled. But good for asking, because you're right. That would really suck if we blew it for everybody, huh? Because it does open in the U.S. nationwide Thursday, just a few days from now. So I hope everyone will go see it. Anyway, it says Heretic stars Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East as Sister Barnes and Sister Paxson, two LDS Saint missionaries. I keep saying LDS Saints. If you notice that, I'm Latter-day Saint missionaries who are meeting a potential convert, Mr. Reed, played by the wonderful Hugh Grant. As they are led into his home and begin to teach, it becomes clear that Mr. Reed knows more than he's letting on, and the sisters are now trapped in a deadly game of cat and mouse. And we've all seen the trailers, so we're not going to play any here. Let's see. Do I have the ability? I don't think I do, to move the slides. That's crazy. Bill, can you? Thank you. And already 95% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So this is getting a lot of buzz. It's even getting Oscar buzz, believe it or not, for Hugh Grant. Let's go to the next slide. I'm sorry I can't move those myself. I'm not sure what happened. So Heretic delivers well-written and complex characters with Sister Paxton and Sister Barnes. Sister Barnes is a convert to the church who has been dealt a rough hand within her family, which led her to serving a mission. While Sister Paxton was born in the faith and on the surface has an innocence that can appear as naivete. Hugh Grant gives one of the best performances of his career as Mr. Reed. And I'm telling you, I'm hearing this everywhere, that this is just absolutely amazing. I was transfixed. Again, this is the returned missionary reviewing this. Through every moment he was on screen, his character exudes ego and narcissism, but under the surface is a great depth of knowledge of religion and faith and the ability to twist beliefs to justify his idea of one true faith. All right, let's go to the next slide. And as I said, I talked to a lot of people, several people who have seen this, and they all told me they knew from the trailer it would be sort of a conversation about theology and religion and, just whoops, and really making people, hone in on their beliefs, sort of a back and forth dialogue. They said they were surprised at what inside baseball it was, meaning it really is about Mormonism. There is the discussion is not just religion in general. It really is about Mormonism, to the point where you might see it as a cinematic CES letter, I mean, very specific quotes from prophets and talking about church history. So this will be really interesting. People who are LDS who see it will recognize everything in it. Other people, it might give them something to go look up after the movie. So the question is, should somebody who's a faithful LDS see the movie Heretic? That's a question. As to whether or not active members of the LDS Church should see Heretic, I believe they should, says this reviewer. In the media, Mormons are seen as the butt of a joke or a side character in a story not made for them, with Hollywood almost mocking the perceived naivete of the members. And I think we've all seen videos and movies like that. Very rarely does Hollywood attempt to give us strong, complex, and realistic LDS characters that can be challenged, they can have depth of feelings, and most importantly, are the well-written. Heretic offers that, as well as a playground of psychological horror to explore LDS theology with respect for members who came to watch with an open mind. And everyone that I talked to who has seen it said yes, they would tell their LDS family to go and see it for these exact reasons. A very complex, nuanced range of characters, which you don't often see when it comes to LDS in the movies.
Hasn't the church taken a different position on that?
That's exactly right. What has the LDS Church said about Heretic? You read my mind in my slides. So, of course, when news of this first came out, they put out a media statement, and I'll just read a small portion of it. We've covered it before. The church said, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, like other prominent global faith communities, often find itself the focus of attention of the entertainment industry. Some portrayals are fair and accurate, but others resort to stereotypes or gross misrepresentations that are in poor taste and have real-life consequences for people of faith. While this is not new, a number of recent productions depict lifestyles and practices blatantly inconsistent with the teachings of the church. Others irresponsibly mischaracterize the safety and conduct of our volunteer missionaries. So, of course, this statement came out in lieu of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and this. So they're saying irresponsibly mischaracterize the safety and conduct of our volunteer missionaries. And I just have to laugh. Somebody showed me this. This is like an ad running down a feed, right? So the first one says, reviews are in for Hugh Grant's LDS Missionaries horror movie. Here's what they say, and it shows a scary picture of the two girls walking into someone's house. Right underneath it is an actual ad from the church saying, request a missionary visit from these two lovely young girls who will come into your house. I mean, you can't make that up. Fantasy and reality. It's the same thing here. So
who has mischaracterized the safety and conduct of our volunteer missionaries?
Exactly.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints itself.
Yep. No, that's exactly what is just the irony of this entire thing. If we can go to the next slide. So Doug Anderson, who is a spokesman for the church, he also came out with a statement on Wednesday, because as I said, we've been talking about this all these months. Now here it is. It's actually in theaters. And it says, Doug Anderson, the spokesman for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in a statement released Wednesday night, said that the church supports its nearly 80,000 missionaries and others who serve in the faith by providing a thorough, regular program of physical and emotional safety training. Our commitment is to foster a culture of respect, empowerment, and safety for all individuals. The statement also noted that the movie is a work of fiction and is not based on actual events, and lamented that it portrays graphic violence toward women. Any narrative that promotes violence against women because of their faith or undermines the contributions of volunteers runs counter to the safety and well-being of our communities, Anderson said. We encourage open discussion and constructive dialogue regarding media portrayals of faith and their impact on society, the statement concluded. Together, we can advocate for stories that portray people of faith with respect, that uplift audiences and inspire positive change in our world. So they don't want missionaries portrayed in a dangerous situation.
I object to the use of the word promotes.
There you go. Yeah, they do not want a missionary portrayed in a dangerous situation. They do not want anybody to think that this is what happens to the missionaries. They will not support this movie in any way because of its content of showing missionaries in a dangerous, unrealistic situation. However, if we can go to our next slide, move to the next one. My co-host Landon brought up the point as we discussed this about this movie. Has anyone seen this or heard of this? I think it's about a decade old, The Saratov Approach. Now, this is a movie. The church didn't make it, but boy, the church news sources promoted it. It is sold at Deseret Book. It is promoted in the Deseret News, Meridian Magazine. It captures the suspense of real-life missionary abduction drama. Missionaries Travis Tuttle, Corbin Allred, played by Corbin Allred, and Andrew Prost are held captive in the Saratov Approach, and Three Coins Productions. So this is, unlike Heretic, a true story where missionaries are in grave danger. You can see some of the pictures from the movie and from the promos. They're running, they're tied up. Again, this is sold at Deseret Book. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, here we go. There it is. There's the cover that if you go to Deseret Book and buy this DVD or order it online, this is what you're going to be bringing into your home. Again, remember, they just came out with a statement saying we are not on board with anybody showing missionaries in danger or anything that could happen to them. This is not our mission. This is not what we do. So let's go to the next slide. A content overview of what is in this, as it's called in Meridian Magazine, gripping Saratov approach will uplift moviegoers of all faith. So there's a difference. This particular scenario of graphic violence against missionaries, unlike Heretic, which I don't know that they've seen it or even know what it's about, this movie will uplift us, right? Much like perhaps, I don't know, a story told by President Nelson about graphic violence and a gun being held to his head and a trigger pulled. Very scary, also not true, but told to uplift people, right? And to...
I thought it was to promote burglaries of mission homes.
Well, I'm saying that was a missionary story also, right? That was the mission home. The mission president's wife ended up with a broken arm. This story is told, yet Heretic is not allowed to share its story of missionaries. So here's the content of this movie. The Saratov approach is rated PG-13. It features brief but merciless beating and kidnapping of 2 missionaries who are bloodied and bruised for the rest of the film. Intense moments of menace. Guns are pointed at the missionary's head, much like President Nelson's story, and mature thematic elements that capture smoke and drink. Drugs and needles are shown, and a woman's out-of-wedlock pregnancy is mentioned.
Holy Toledo, Batman.
That's right. It is highly recommended, but only for teens and up. So I'm just trying to wrap my brain around that.
This is Meridian Magazine. This is the LDS affiliated magazine.
Yes.
Okay.
And there was a similar, very positive review in the Deseret News about this movie, telling everyone to go see it because it has a positive, uplifting message despite the, what did it say? Intense moments of menace and merciless beatings and kidnappings. So I guess it's when the church can control the message of it and use it for a positive experience that it's okay. But Heretic, they have no control over. And so they're going to say, don't see that. Now, Heretic, the producer is former LDS. The writer is former LDS. The 2 actresses that play the sisters are former LDS. And both of the actresses said in an interview, I wasn't sure I wanted to play that part because I have family and friends that are LDS. When I read the story and I read what these girls, what their part entailed and the depth of it and the nuance, they said, I totally want to play this because it's an extremely well-rounded character and it represents missionaries very well. It's not like this graphic slasher over-the-top cartoon character. These are portrayals of missionaries that, as I understand it, are like I said, very nuanced, very, very true, I think. So let's go to the next slide. I don't know, it just left me for pause. So another thing that I heard out in the faithful community is that people are concerned about copycats. Will this movie now give someone the idea that when a missionary shows up in their home, because they've called them from Facebook, how sometimes this is interesting. I wanted to show some of those ads that they put on Facebook Marketplace. Cute sister missionaries going, plate of cookies? We'll bring it to your house with the Book of Mormon. Stick of gum? I'll bring it to your house. Hi, need a friend? We'll come to your house. I found a whole bunch of those ads. I couldn't even bring myself to put them on the newscast because I don't want to promote that at all. I don't want to show that. But if you want to know those exist, you can go out there. A lot of them have been collected on Reddit. They really are putting themselves out there in a scenario where somebody could see that ad and invite them in. But missionaries are now concerned that there could be some copycats, and they're more worried than ever about visiting friends in their home. So let's go to the next slide. I think we're almost done.
Did you say, wait a second, friends in their home?
Yeah, because they don't call them investigators anymore. They call them friends. Friends.
When did this happen?
Probably about 2 years ago, I think. I first noticed it when I had a relative on the mission and they kept writing letters that said, we met with our friends. And I was like, God, they're spending a lot of time with their friends. Where are the investigators? And then I realized, no, they are now calling. And this is more of a Christian word. We want to meet our friends and share the good news. If you read Missionaries today, their letters, this is what you're going to hear. So before I go to this very last movie slide, because I do have another movie to talk about, any thoughts on Heretic and maybe a double standard in that we kind of illustrated through the Saratov approach? What do you think, Bill?
Yeah, I was just going to try to put up on the screen here. Let me see if I can get it really quick. I want to read the quote here from the church again. It says, this was Doug Anderson. Any narrative that promotes violence against women because of their faith or undermines the contributions of volunteers runs counter to the safety and well-being of our communities. And it makes me think that there are plenty of narratives in the LDS church that have violence against women. Now, the church doesn't tell you about them, but they happened. And in this way, actually keeping the story from the members actually promotes additional violence. Because then if people understand the context of what's happened in Mormon history, all of the young teenage girls that were groomed by Joseph Smith, who were groomed to live in his home as maids or adopted daughters or the like, there's some spiritual and sexual violence that happened in these situations too. And it just seems strange, like you said earlier, which stories the church once promoted, which violent acts it has no problem talking about, and which ones it wants you to steer away from. And it does seem more about controlling the narrative than it is about violent acts or violence against women. So there's my thoughts. And then my other thing I'll just say really quick, Rotten Tomatoes, 95%. And there's like almost 100 reviews in already. That means the movie is damn good. So I will be seeing it at my earliest convenience this coming weekend in Lehi, Utah.
It's all those damn anti-Mormons skewing the score.
That's it. That's us. What do you think, RFM? Any other
My thought
thoughts?
is simply this, and it's rather reductionist, but I think we can tell from your very fine juxtaposition of the church's position on the heretic versus the church's position on the Saratov approach that the church's real objection to the movie Heretic has nothing to do with missionary safety.
No, it's all about a narrative getting out that they may not want to get out, right? Because as I said, I learned that it's a lot of inside baseball about Mormonism, which piques my interest even more to go and see it because it's getting such great reviews. All right, one other quick movie. I guess you know how I have Tut Temple update time. I ought to have Mutt movie update time, right? But this I'm really excited about. This is coming out in January. And let me see, it says it's called American Primeval, right? This is on Netflix. This is a series really well done by people that have done really excellent series before on Netflix. And this is a little post I made about it. It says, time for the LDS Church to put out another media statement. It's Mountain Meadows Massacre time on Netflix coming in January. So many of us have said that story needs to be told. Everything going on in that era needs to be told. Lindsay Hansen Park consulted on this. It's going to be really good. A little blurb about it says it's set in 1857, American Frontier, the upcoming limited series American Primeval, from director and executive producer Peter Berg, creator, writer, and executive producer Mark L. Smith, and executive producer Eric Newman. If you guys ever watched Narcos, these guys were involved in that. Narcos is so good. This is going to be amazing. Follows different groups and individuals fighting to survive and gain control in the lands out west. Chief among them are the members of the Mormon Church. Fleeing widespread persecution, violence, and humiliation, they travel to Utah to build a safe space and stronghold, and their leader, Brigham Young, will do whatever it takes to secure the survival of his flock. That last sentence is what gives me hope that this may be a realistic or at least fair portrayal of the events that really happened in the Mountain Meadows Massacre. And now this comes out in January. And as I said, I've heard already there's Oscar buzz for Heretic. So Oscar, nominations start coming out in January. This is going to be, I feel like, another Mormon moment. There's going to be continued buzz about Heretic. American Primeval is going to come out. I mean, I think it's going to be a great day to be a podcaster.
It's only a matter, LDS Church. I'm going to just speak to them for just a second. LDS Church, it's only a matter of time before Hulu or Netflix or Peacock or Amazon Prime, somebody's going to put out a 7-season TV series on the life of Joseph Smith. And when that happens, your members are going to watch it no matter what you say. And when that happens, they're going to learn a lot of things that you didn't tell them. Because if they do it right, the average member is in for quite a bit of surprise at all the things Joseph Smith had his hands in.
Yes, this might be faith damaging, but it also might be faith promoting, because I see that apparently they've included the angel Moroni flying in the midst of heaven above the 4 horsemen and below the American flag.
I'm not sure if that's the Angel Moroni
It
RFM,
might
but
be John
okay.
B. Lee or something.
I don't see any wings.
No, I'm telling you, even the picture right there tells me, oh, they're really going to dive into what it was like, in those early days of the church there under Brigham Young. And it's not what they tell you in Sunday school.
No wings, but he's not blowing a trumpet either.
I think maybe he dropped it. There was an earthquake. You understand. All right, so we're up to the next story, the penultimate story. Second Coming Frenzy. New Elders Quorum and Relief Society lessons for 2025 start out with a bang. There is new material for Elders Quorum and Relief Society. Did you hit something inadvertently there, Bill?
Okay, whatever you just said, I knocked my earpiece out. So go ahead.
I think when you did that, you accidentally forwarded about 10 slides. No, just one slide.
This is the thing you asked me to click the link to.
Yeah, but I wanted to read. Yeah. If you could go back to the prior slide, it'd be great.
Okay, this one?
No, that one. The new material for the Elders Quorum and Relief Society lessons is found in the Church News, which itself is a strange place, I think, to have your religious curriculum is in the Church News. But such is the case, as Bill Reel will now prove to our audience's satisfaction.
Ta-da!
There it is. And if you can scroll, so it goes to the top of the article.
Yep, so this is, okay, sorry.
That's okay. You're doing great. It's a Church News. See, right there. Relief Society / Elders Quorum. Hey, wait a second. Who put the Relief Society before the Elders Quorum in this headline? Heads are going to roll.
Also notice Relief Society is in capital letters and Elders Quorum is in lowercase.
I think this was a definite choice that was made.
Saboteur.
What do you think, Rebecca?
No. Stylistically, this is absolutely ridiculous. There's no rule that would make you do that. Either relief because it's the beginning of the sentence and then society and everything's small. This is a typo. I feel this is a mistake, which means that they put it out really fast.
What do you think of the mistake of putting the Relief Society before the Elders Quorum?
No, they do that all the time. Haven't you heard them say sisters and brothers? They say it all the time, and it's so condescending because they don't mean it, but they're doing it on purpose. They're trying too hard. It's sisters and brothers. Yep.
I wonder if it's Scott Lloyd who wrote this article. Let's see.
Who was it?
No, Joel Randall.
Joel Randall. So Relief Society, President Nelson, this is called a lesson aid. President Russell M. Nelson, the Lord Jesus Christ will come again. Lesson resources on President Nelson's October 2024 General Conference message to prepare for Elders Quorum or Relief Society. There's a picture of the man himself, the big guy. Here it is by Joel Randall, editor's note, to support Elders Quorum and Relief Society classes. They did it again. Except, they put them in first.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
I have no idea.
Why is it not the E and the Q capitalized if the R and the S is capitalized?
Is it because the Relief Society is the oldest women's organization? Like maybe it's a separate class.
I'm going to have to check
no
the
idea.
style guide.
I think this is faux humility.
I will report next time. I'm going to check the style guide. You can learn a lot from that style guide. I'm not kidding. Like, is Heavenly Mother capitalized? Huh?
And should there not be an apostrophe after the S in elders?
Yeah. Is the apostrophe before the S?
Only if there's one elder in the quorum.
No. In what you're showing. I was looking away for a minute.
I don't see it.
All right.
There's no apostrophe.
I'm going to print this out and correct it with red ink, and I'll bring it next time.
Okay, or you could take a photo shot of it while I'm doing this, and then you could show it to the entire audience tonight.
I could, but I can't multitask.
Okay. Well, if you stop texting on your phone for a minute.
I'm not. I'm reviewing my slides for the next part of the presentation because I can't advance my slides, so I have to commit to memory what order they're in.
Okay. All right. Let's try and be professional out here. This is a news program. All right. So this is a help for it, and it's an outline for your use if you're teaching Elders Quorum or Relief Society, and it has all these different little excerpts from President Nelson's talk. And you can get the video of it by clicking on the link. You can get the text of it by clicking on the link. But we're not going to do any of that here. I'm just showing that. And one of the main things on this, the reason for bringing this up, you can click down to that. That'd be great if you scroll down to that, is once again, President Nelson is beating the second coming drum. The Lord Jesus Christ will come again. This is from a talk he gave in the last General Conference in October, I believe. And if we can go to the next slide, Bill.
Yeah, let me...
That was a bit difficult because we went from slides to out of slides, back in slides. So here's 3 of those examples. See what they have in common. The Lord is hastening his work. That's not so subtle code for Jesus is coming soon. Temple blessings help saints to gather Israel on both sides of the veil and prepare the world for his second coming. Next, Jesus Christ will direct the affairs of his church from both Old Jerusalem and the New Jerusalem. When? When he comes back. He will be known as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Now is the time to prepare for the second coming of Christ and make discipleship the highest priority. So we're not going to play those clips. We saw that. You can go back and look at it yourself, but you can see how it's hitting over and over this idea of the second coming. First lesson that's going to be in this Elders Quorum Relief Society thing. And I expect it's the first lesson because it's President Nelson, right? But it's also getting priority of place to this idea about Jesus is coming again. Do we have the next clip? Okay, so what's going on here, and what I have discovered, and what others are discovering, is there is a massive industry going on within the Mormon community about Jesus is coming any second now. This whole apocalyptic, this whole signs of the times, this whole you better get ready because this is what they're talking about. This is what President Nelson is talking about. This is what these people are talking about. Even got Brad Wilcox in there. That's what he's talking about, right? And this is titled, Do You See What Is Happening Right Before Our Eyes? And it's just a compilation of different quotes from the last General Conference. If you could play the first minute of this, just maybe 30 seconds, so people can get a flavor for it. Thanks, Bill.
Don't let the world change you. When you were born to change the world.
You are here on earth now because you were selected to be here now. You have the strength and the capacity to be disciples of Christ in an unprecedented way.
My dear brothers and sisters, do you see what is happening right before our eyes? I pray that we will not miss the majesty of this moment. The Lord is indeed hastening his work.
That's plenty for this
because we have been reserved for these latter days.
Thank you. And now to the next slide, little synopsis on this. Once again, that was, Do You See What Is Happening is the title. It's Happy Lady is the podcast name. Released October 14th, 2024. That's less than a month ago. That video has 168,000 views. This is how crazy the Mormons are getting over this. It used to be the evangelical Christians were the ones who were crazy about this kind of stuff, and the Jehovah's Witnesses to a certain extent, until finally Jesus didn't come for like the 4th time he was predicted, and they decided to lay off on it altogether. But this was the stuff that they used to do. Now we're getting into it. Now we're involved in it to an amazing extent. 168,000 views. Let's go to the next one. I have 3 of these as examples, all right? 7 crucial warnings for the world. President Nelson. Can we play the first 30 seconds or so of this one?
But in coming days, it will not be possible to survive spiritually without the guiding, directing, comforting, and constant influence of the Holy Ghost. I love you and thank you, and now bless you with the ability to leave the world behind as you assist in this crucial and urgent work.
That's plenty. That's plenty. I thought he was going to say, bless you with the ability to leave the church. But this one, this is, once again, it's just, you know, it's President Nelson. You could watch it on the church website. I'm not exactly sure what goes on to say. 7 crucial warnings for the world is the name. The Words of Christ is the name of the podcast, released 4 months ago. 220,000 views. And the next one, this is the 3rd one. It's the last one. Of course, I'm going in order of which has the most views. This is called, Is the Second Coming Close? Picture of Jesus on the left, picture of Russell Nelson on the right. Can you play the first 30 seconds?
When you read all of his talks back to back, in my opinion, it's very clear. He says we have an urgent work to do in the latter part of the latter days. Now is the time. Time is running out. Bottom of the 9th inning. He's not even subtle about it. The rain is coming. It's just a matter of whether or not we are watching.
Make no mistake about it. You were born to be a true millennial.
Welcome to True Millennial. My name is Parker Walbeck.
And that's plenty.
In this video, I want to answer.
That's plenty. As you can guess, that's true millennial. And this guy is very smart. He's putting the pieces together in exactly the way that President Nelson wants him to put the pieces together. Not because it's true, but because it's the message that President Nelson wants the members to receive and to share. Once again, the name of this podcast, the title of this one is The Second Coming Close? It's by True Millennial, released 5 months ago, 473,000 views. That's almost 500,000 views. And it will get to 500,000 probably by the 6-month mark. So if we can go to this next slide. This is Martine Smith. Martine Smith had done an informal list of the different TBM, True Believing Mormon, podcast channels dealing with the second coming. And by the way, I noticed as I went through this, I don't think she got 2 of the 3 we already played. She got True Millennial. There was another one, The Words of God, right? Or The Words of Christ. I don't think that's on here. So that's another one, in other words, in addition to this long list. And then there was another one that I don't think's on here. But listen to all of these. Christian Homestead. That's a funny name for a Mormon podcast, but it's in first place for sheer number of videos, 2 to 3 videos a day. Christian Fire Poppy, Anticipating Christ's Return, Arise, O Zion, Consider the Truth, Ezra's Eagle, Glenn Beck, The Haystack, Families in the Millennium, Last Days Saints, Latter Day Media, that's Farrell and Rhonda Pickering, if anybody knows who they are, Manti Homestead, Michael B. Rush, Morgan Philpott, who apparently is a former Utah legislator. He gives 2+ hour constitutional lectures. Then they turn off the cameras for secret knowledge. Going on, Preparing for Zion is another podcast. Rise Zion, Saints of the Second Coming, Signs of the Times, Spiritual Survival, Truth Shall Come Forth, True Millennials, Temples of Jesus, Witnesses of Christ, Zion Media. Who knew that Mormons were getting so on board with the second coming? I've got to tell you, as I've said a number of times, I joined the church in 1978. Okay. I know that there was some talk about Jesus' second coming because we're ending the end of this the first 6,000 years. The year 2000 is imminent. So through the 70s, 80s, even into the 90s, and then Y2K, okay, there was talk about it. But there was nothing going on in that time that I saw as a member of the church in the last 2 decades of the second millennium that comes close to comparing to what's going on now in the LDS church in 2024. And if we can just do this, the next slide, because I think this is important. This is from January of 2015, where Sister Wendy Watson says this giant whopper to thousands and thousands of people from Hawaii in a young adult fireside.
Can I just say,
yeah, please.
No wife of a prophet has ever spoken as much as this lady. It will be very interesting to see when he passes if she just disappears.
Yeah, it will.
Anyway.
I don't know. Sherry Dew doesn't need a husband to be prominent, so we'll see. Maybe she'll follow the same path Wendy will.
Here it is.
My dear brothers and sisters, whom I love, the reality is that someday you and I will each have an individual face-to-face interview with the Savior himself. When this eventuality becomes real to us, we will be willing to do whatever it takes to be prepared. So now a question as I conclude. What if you learned that the Savior had already returned to this earth? That he, as part of his second coming, had already met with some of his true followers in several marvelous large gatherings. Gatherings about which the world, including CNN and the blogosphere, knew nothing. If you found out that the Savior was already on the earth, what would you desperately want to do today? And what would you be willing and ready to do tomorrow?
Rebecca, I know that you have some very strong feelings on this subject. Would you share them with us?
I'm sorry, I do. But, reading those numbers of views, I'm texting Landon right now. I'm telling my co-host that we are morphing Mormonish into apocalyptic doomsday podcast, and we will have our first episode out tomorrow. I'm kidding.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good idea because you will never lack. You will never lack for suckers.
Content or anybody. Again, I know that I get inordinately upset about this, but I have family members that buy into this, and this is fear mongering. This is completely irresponsible. This is manipulation, and it's simply not true. I mean, we talked earlier today, RFM, about Y2K, and I see some people mentioning that in the chat. That was, there was a computer glitch. Was the world going to end? There was some talk of the second coming, but it was nothing like it is now. And as you and I discussed back then, it was pre-internet, right? What's happening now is because of the internet and other influences, everybody's jumping ship from Mormonism. And what's the best way? History has shown to get people to stay in that boat, to scare the freaking hell out of them. And that's exactly, can I say hell on the podcast? That is exactly what they're doing. And when I talked about this, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago on the newscast, I had gone over to Faithful social media and I had seen some posts from young people. And this is why it makes me upset. I mean, those of us that are older, whatever, we're being manipulated. If you can't see it, too bad. But I'm talking teenagers in therapy that are saying, I'm scared. Will I grow up? Will I ever have a family? Will I get married? They're making life decisions based on this rhetoric, this fear-mongering rhetoric. Maybe I should skip school. Maybe I should get married now. What should I do? This should not enter into the conversation of a young person. There are things in the world, of course, that are a problem. You can be an activist. You can go out and try to make a difference. This kind of fear mongering is just lay down. It's over. And when I hear Wendy saying things like that, I know they know that there are people that hang on every word, just like those podcasts that you showed us. They are looking for signs. They are looking for hidden symbols. They're not even hiding them anymore. They are coming out and saying the words that everybody is waiting to hear. And I don't know what we can do on the other side to try to alleviate some of these fears, but I'm telling you, it makes me the saddest to see that this is greatly impacting young Latter-day Saint kids, teenagers, our relatives, our friends. This is real. And I don't know what we can do to stop it, but it makes me really frustrated.
Yeah, maybe I'll drop my career at age 40 and go on a mission.
Well, the world is ending soon. You may as well, but not until after the Olympics. Remember how we talked about that? We still have to be on board for the Olympics in Utah, then the fire and brimstone.
Except Jesus could come back and the Olympics could still be held. There'd just be a few less competitors.
Yeah, that's true. It just makes me frustrated.
Only terrestrial and above competitors will be there.
3 things that caught my eye. First off, not said here, I can't find it. I just know it happened right around the November 2015 moment. There was a fireside to young adults or youth of the church where President Nelson, as an apostle, not as the president of the church, told them that we were in the 11th and a half hour. Here, he said, those born have the chance to be true millennials, meaning those who live during the millennium is sort of what that seems to mean to me. Then he says the latter part of the latter days. So folks, just do some math. If we started in 1830, that's the last days. Joseph Smith called us the prophet of the restoration. You can back up to the first vision if you'd like to. If we're in the latter part of the last days, we have about another 200 years left. If Jesus doesn't come in those 200 years, if he doesn't show back up again, then what we end up with is a false prophecy. We're not in the latter part of the latter days if in 200 years Jesus hasn't shown up. Now, I'll show my prophetic ability over President Nelson's. You can go 500 years into the future. There will be no Jesus coming back in that time. And you will find out that Bill Reel is a much better prophet, seer, and revelator than President Russell M. Nelson.
Well, I would go further than that. I think you're being quite charitable, and that becomes you. But Joseph Smith taught quite clearly that those living in his day would see the second coming. That there were those among them living then, at the time of the restoration, that would see Jesus coming again. And that has been very close to 200 years now. And I don't think even President Nelson is going to make that.
No.
Okay. So that takes care of that particular story. We're down to our last story for the evening, and this is back to Rebecca Bibliotheca, an update on the new garment design and how fashionable will they really allow the women of the church to be?
That is the question. And again, another topic that really makes me angry. I'm going to have to, I don't know, go to a spa or something after
We'll
this
just start
episode.
calling you Angry Rebecca.
What?
We'll call you Angry Rebecca.
I've got angry eyes. That's right. But there's a reason to be frustrated with this. So, I swore every time I talk about garments, I'm like, I am not talking about them anymore. But then something else happens. So we've already talked about the new tank top garment, but now they're going to give some information, like you said, RFM, on what does this really mean in real life as far as changing what LDS women can wear. And the title of this article from the Tribune is Just How Sleeveless Are These New LDS Garments Really? Women may be able to don sleeveless wedding dresses, sexier underwear, and more classic outfits, but plenty of wardrobe still remains off limits. And I think you can see from this graphic in the Tribune exactly what we're talking about, right? Sorry, Bill, again, for some reason, I can't move my own slide. You're going to have to do it for me. All right. So the article in the Tribune starts out by talking about, what garments mean to people. And of course, we've gone over that. They've kind of morphed that through the ages. But of course, they're symbolic and, represent their covenants. But the article then says, as historians have documented, the cut and make of the underclothing has changed repeatedly and dramatically since their introduction in the early days of the church. And if you haven't seen this graphic before, you can see it was a little two-piece. You can go see Hiram Smith's two-piece garments in the Church History Museum with blood stains. Then it moves to the one-piece, then the more shorter kind of one-piece, the kind that my parents, probably a lot of your parents wore or still wear. And then, of course, to the
Not
two-piece.
mine.
Not yours.
I was a
Mine did
convert.
to the end. Yep. And isn't it interesting? We just routinely talk about people's underwear. We're as bad as everybody else. And then, of course, the two-piece. And then you can see here the improvements. A shirt with more of a strappy sleeve, a full body slip with a strappy sleeve, yet a very high neckline. I don't know how many of you noticed that about the slip. The neckline is quite high, and the bottom of the slip comes to the top of the knees, and then just a slip, right?
It's like that's the price you have to pay.
That's exactly right. You can have the arm, but you can't have the neck. Heaven forbid you could have both. It's never going to happen. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what new style of clothing exactly do these garments, a slip and a shirt option for women, plus a relatively sleeveless version for women and men, open up for faithful members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? True, the garment top's hem no longer extends past the shoulder, but as Latter-day Saint researcher Laura Brignon noted in a recent episode of Salt Lake Tribune's Mormon Land Podcast, I said Mormon Stories, that's funny, Mormon Land Podcast, the underclothing still covers much of the joint exposed by many, if not most, sleeveless styles for women. The neckline of the slip, meanwhile, appears to be more conservative than many of the standalone shirt options currently available. So this is what I'm talking about. On the left is a picture of kind of what I'm wearing now. This is your standard sleeveless shirt for a woman, right? Nothing outrageous about it. It's just a sleeveless shirt. So look at the garment there. It goes to kind of right here, and what they mean, the joint area still needs to be covered. So if you look at that picture on the bottom right, that's more what you can wear. Some kind of something that goes to here with a higher neckline. So I don't really know. And I'm telling you, when I was trying to find these pictures, when I was searching for a picture of something that would fit that garment, I had to scroll through hundreds of pictures to find something that would be fashionable that would fit that garment. So I don't know if it's exactly what we all think it's cracked up to be. I have heard that the actual garment itself, the strap is thinner. And maybe if you wash it a bunch, it'll shrink it. That was always a trick with the bottoms, right? You just wash them and wash them and wash them until they shrink up to, they're boy shorts.
Or if you hem it, it will shrink.
But that would be modifying the garment.
They just modified it. They just proved that the modification doesn't make any difference.
They can make the modification via God's instruction, but you as a lay person, you cannot modify it in any way. I've been told that over and over because I used to do all kinds of creative things like roll it up, pull it down, try to make, anyway, I won't even go there.
Is that what Wendy's talking about when they met with Jesus in these big gatherings that they were talking about how to change the underwear?
Exactly. He wheeled in a giant whiteboard and a pointer. He goes, now look, this part of the shoulder, it's okay now. Not this, but this. That's the most pressing matter for Jesus. All right, let's go to the next slide. You have to kind of laugh or you would probably
Jesus Saint Laurent. That's what they call him.
So now another question that the LDS Saint fashion blogger and entrepreneur Kylie Nichols pointed out is the width of the new style armhole is another spot where today's garment styles are often incompatible with clothing trends. The garment goes like way up to here. It's pretty tight. In fact, I feel like it's going to be uncomfortable. I remember that. Just get the and a lot of shirts like the one you see right there have a little bit more of a looser armhole, a more casual look. You're not going to be able to wear the new garments with that. In fact, on social media, a lot of LDS women are saying, I'm still wearing a shirt under it because it just doesn't work. Yeah. So it's close, but they missed the mark. Let's go to the next one. Okay, the men's option is even stranger to me, and maybe you guys can speak to this because you're men. So here's the men's option on the left. Again, it has that really weird where it just comes to the edge of the shoulder. So a tank top on a guy, I think that's probably a picture of you, Bill, isn't it? Yes, I borrowed that from your social media. The one in the middle, black t-shirt or the black tank top. That's a normal guy tank top, right? What is that over on the right-hand side?
That's what I used to wear back in dance class in the 1980s.
Exactly. It's like a 1980s or a Jersey boy kind of thing. Forget about it. I'm wearing my garments. It just, what are they going to wear? Honestly, it's close, but it's just not quite right. They just didn't quite get it. All right, let's go to the next one.
Those two guys, you can wear anything you want.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
That's Mormonism in a nutshell, by the way. It's close, but it's not quite right.
That's right. Funny, Bill. Okay. All right. So a much bigger deal. What?
I'm sorry. You said funny RFM, then you shifted it to Bill.
You're both funny. I have to compliment you both. You're both hilarious. All right. Okay. So a much bigger deal, this fashion blogger said, are the availability of the skirt and the slip options, both for health and for cultural reasons, because we have talked endlessly about the garment shorts that women have to wear that are constricting and they're nylon and they're not breathable and they cause UTIs and infections and all kinds of terrible problems. So she goes on to say some African sisters are more comfortable with skirts than dresses, she said. This next line, I believe, is why we have the new garments. Some of them have never worn pants. They just weren't having it. They're not going to wear the garments as they are. And so the church had to pivot because increasing membership there in Africa, where you don't see it other places, and they had to accommodate the needs of the people joining the church there. I think they put their foot down and said, not going to wear it, never worn pants, not going to do it. Here we have the new slip and the full slip. The new style fits more neatly inside of their cultural standards. Okay. So here's my question, and I posed this before, and I don't know if you guys understood it. So when I went to the temple for the first time in 1991, I was explicitly told that you can't wear anything underneath your garments at all. You can wear something over it, but you can't wear anything under it. And that was a problem for decades. And I think women of my age will say the same thing. Problem for decades, for various reasons that you guys probably don't even want to imagine. So my question with the new slip and the new half slip is, can you wear underwear under there? And this is a joke. Did anyone ever say this to you? What's under there? And you're supposed to go, underwear. And you're like, ha ha, playground joke. So my question is, can you wear underwear under there? Under the slip? Can you wear something between you and the garment? Otherwise, you're wearing nothing.
I don't know that one. I know the one about I see England, I see France.
Yes, I see someone's underpants. Well, now you can tell this one. Go up to someone and say, what's under there? And they'll go, underwear. And you'll go, ha ha. See, it's great. You can use it on
brilliant, actually.
It is brilliant. Okay, so go to the next slide. So as I posed this question different places, people said, well, you're crazy. They never said that in the temple. I'm like, they did say that in the temple. Stop trying to gaslight me, right? So I went out on social media and I posed the question, were you ever told, and I hope people can weigh in the chat. I'm curious to hear your answers too. Were you ever told that there was absolutely nothing comes between me and my Calvins, right? Nothing comes between me and my garments. This is what I was told. So just a few answers, and it did seem to go kind of through the decades and then change. So one person said, I went to the temple in 1989. I was told the garment must be worn next to the skin. I never had much problem with wearing a bra over the garment top, but there was no way I was going to wear underwear over the garment bottoms during that time of the month. This is a huge deal, as probably people in the chat can attest to. I always wore them under. I felt guilty about it, but I did what I had to do. And I'm telling you, women, hundreds, thousands of women wrestled with this for decades. The idea that somebody else can insert themselves in a woman's ability to care for herself and do what's best for her during, her a certain time of the month is absolutely ridiculous, that you have to second guess yourself and what would be best for you to do to take care of yourself and your hygiene just makes me crazy. Okay, so the next, I know Arfin and Bill are like, whoa, sorry, not the next slide, just the next quote here. Went through the temple in the mid-90s, was taught nothing should be between the garment and my skin. I also grew up seeing my mom wear her bras over her garment. I also remember her wearing underpants over the garments. When I asked as an adult about that, she said it was, again, that time of the month sort of a thing. So this person in the 90s told the same thing. Somebody else says, yep, nothing can go under your garments. They must be next to your skin. Bras go over, and they should never touch the floor. That was also really important. I remember going to a doctor's appointment when I was newly married. I hated garments so much. I stripped them off. I threw them on the floor, kind of, or in a pile with my other clothes. And this nurse came in. This is in Utah. She goes, oh, my dear, you've let them touch the floor. And she actually picked up my underwear and put it on a shelf. Yeah. So if you can't keep your own garments sacred, someone else is going to do it for you. It just, oh my God, you can't make this stuff up. Somebody else says, yes, in 1990, I was explicitly told the garment should be the closest thing to my skin always. Anything else had to be worn over it. See, guys don't have these issues. It's just like boxer briefs and a t-shirt. It's totally fine. Went through in 2006 and was clearly instructed in the temple by the temple matron. It must be worn over, meaning anything you'd like to put on in addition to garment has to go over. Was also told that I had to wear them while exercising. And, some people are saying we just ignored that. It was ridiculous. Okay, so now here's where things start to change. I went through the temple in 2012 and I was told I could wear a bra either over or under, but the more faithful members still wear it over to keep the garment touching the skin. Yeah. And this is on the level of people that would take showers and make sure they were holding a part of the garment outside of the shower. I will not reveal which of my family members did that, but they did. So they were never
someone who did that and slipped and hurt themselves badly.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine trying to take a shower with one hand out holding, again, I will not reveal which of my family members did that. And then 2016, this person was given instruction by a temple matron that underwear could go under the garment if desired, or that time of the month, and the bra could be over or under. So it definitely changed. So no one can gaslight any of us. We were told that up to, it sounds like, pretty much the mid, 2012 or 2016. And so now we can go to the next slide. Sorry about that. So that was my question. Can we wear things under the new slip and the new half flip? And the answer is yes. Nichols sees yet another lacier benefit with the skirt and the slip options, one that can be filed under strengthening marriages. As a married member, garments sometimes made it hard because attractive undergarment styles are worn far more infrequently. Yes, said the founder of a jewelry company, Nickel and Suede. A garment slip option sounds like a great way to open up undergarment options. Sexy is sacred. So the only thing I can think they're saying here is that now, because you can choose your own underwear, you can wear funner, cuter, sexier underwear under that. Is that how you guys read that?
Lingerie underneath.
Underneath. Yes. Which is why I have in that slide that girl going. And I think I kind of talked this over with Bill last night, and he made the comment, Well, that's not really going to do it.
No, yeah.
That's not really.
The skirt thing. I don't want to say go back, but the skirt. I mean, it has the symbols on it.
It has the marks by the just the knee. All you need is
here has the marks on it. Man, this is just not the church I grew up with. I was told a lot of things about the temple ordinances and the garments, and none of it turned out to be what they said.
Yep. That's why this is almost just like jump the shark, if I can use those terms. It really has. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We're almost done here. So it says, for many, the potential in such a pairing is more than superficial. And I guess that means a pairing of sexy underwear and the garment, looser slip and half slip. The Tribune heard from dozens of current and former female garment wearers who said the previous design left them feeling unattractive, check mark, and perpetually self-conscious, check mark, about their bodies. A few even cited issues in their sex life with their spouse tied to underclothing. Okay, so apparently this is supposed to be a positive step forward. Let's go to the next slide. And to me, this is sort of the saddest comment of all. The ability to choose one's intimate clothing is a big part of bodily autonomy for sure, and absolutely has an effect on my own ability to develop a sexual sense of self. And the ability to choose styles, for instance, a flowy slip would allow for more differences in sensory input, says one garment wearer. Having the option to wear underwear with garments, will add personal choice and control into my life. Another one said, which are important aspects of my sexuality. So yes, you as a grown-ass woman can now pick out what underwear you want to wear. And you can put that on underneath a garment slip or a garment half slip. And that's progress. And so I had to give some examples here of a dress that could be worn with the slip and the half slip. Again, you have to have the sleeves that are right there. So it can't be like a full-on dress like this. And it has to, be at least to the knee. So those are two options that I found. So let's go to the next slide. My other thought about this is there really is no other option for a woman who is concerned about her personal hygiene than to wear a slip or a half slip. You still have the garment bottom shorts that you can wear with the tank top, and that you still have the same issues with the personal hygiene and the infections. So in order to get around that, my question is, are women now going to be wearing more dresses? Is this part of it? Are we going to see LDS women almost forced back into dresses because that's the only way that you're allowed to choose your own underwear, cotton, whatever's going to work for you from a medical standpoint, personal hygiene standpoint? Are we now going to be wearing dresses? These, of course, are from Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey. Maybe that's an exaggeration. I don't know. Maybe not. Let me know what you think. And
Well,
then
you're an
what?
intelligent woman, Rebecca.
Mhm.
Once you know that it's okay to wear regular underwear under a slip,
Uh-huh.
would that not give you also tacit approval to wear regular underwear under the shorts version of the
Well,
garment?
no, and that's already what they've said. You can do that. But again, to wear underwear and then underwear on top of it, it's absolutely ridiculous. How many layers can Mormonism have? And I mean that literally and figuratively. It's just too much. So yeah, it seems like they're trying to spin it in a positive way, but the practicality of it, it just doesn't make sense on a day-to-day basis. And then I have this other question. Go to the next slide. Okay, so can an LDS man who wears, say, a kilt or a cultural, more of a skirt, can they wear that half slip? I don't know. What do you
I would
guys
say,
think?
aye, lassie.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Let me know what you think in the chat.
Top of the morning to you. Yeah.
Exactly. So anyway, really interesting, these new styles, but I think we're going to see a lot more of, in the practical use of them. I don't think it is what everybody thought when they were initially so giddy with excitement. There are still problems.
I think there's an angle that no one's mentioned yet, which is that, again, there are twice as many, at least in some places, and I think that this isn't just an anomaly in one spot. There are twice as many women as there are men in terms of active members of the church, right? So that means that for every active Latter-day Saint woman, about half of them are probably marrying an inactive member or a non-member. And a lot of these women are pointing to wanting more freedom with their sexuality. I have to imagine a lot of them have spouses who just aren't into garments, and you having to wear them when your spouse is like, this is just not sexy. This is not cool. I can see, at least in part, the church is sort of trying to figure out a way to not have women feel the cognitive dissonance of being married to an inactive or non-member Mormon.
Yeah. Well, you remember they used to take your temple recommend away if you were married to a non-member, and you could not wear garments for that very reason. Even when, and I've heard stories of even when the partner said, I respect my wife, she can wear her religious undergarment and I will respect that, they still would not allow that. So it is a problem with, with increasingly mixed faith marriages in those scenarios. And I think women more and more are seeing it. You know, they're going to listen to their husband and go, you're right, I probably don't have to wear these tonight. I'll put them on tomorrow. Or the next day.
You know what happens the moment you stop wearing them and your sex life and intimacy get better, then you're like, well, why the hell do I ever wear these?
Exactly. Or just your body image. I'm not kidding. I've told this story before, and I went through the temple and got married when I was 26. So I had a long time to not wear garments and to just be a college student and a working professional without garments. The second I put them on, and I'm not kidding, I remember putting them on, trying them on. I went to buy them. I had not gone through the temple yet, but you try them on to make sure what they are. At least I did. I put them on and I immediately felt what I now recognize as sort of a body dysmorphia kind of a feeling. I felt like I weighed 30 pounds heavier. I felt depressed, closed in. And that was just with the garment on. Then I put a shirt on top, and I almost had like a panic where I've got to get all this off me. I felt hot, closed in. I know not every woman feels that way, but I had an immediate adverse reaction to it. And I fought it for a couple years. And then I just started doing the workaround. I started not wearing the top. I would still wear the bottom, just to feel lighter and freer, and then I didn't like the lines in your jeans that you can see you're wearing garments. And so I kind of did, okay, if I wear the top, I won't wear the bottoms. If I wear the bottoms, I won't wear the top. I did this mix and match and mix for a long time. And then I discovered workout clothes. I'm like, I'm on my way to the gym constantly. And so for decades, I did that. I was always in, leggings and a tank top just to get around it because it did not work for me.
Yeah. Well, it's no wonder you went inactive.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It is no wonder that I ended up on a podcast like this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think you have a final comment or two for the audience. Is that right, Rebecca?
Comment. That's right. Because what is happening tomorrow night, RFM and Bill?
Well, I think all of tomorrow is given over to Election Day in the United States. However, the results will be in tomorrow, or at least within, 30 days or so of tomorrow.
Yep, that's right. So tomorrow night, election night, everybody get out and vote. I wanted to show everybody my ballot here in Utah. This unusual person, RFM, can you read that person's name?
It says Lucifer, just in case, Everlove. So Lucifer Everlove, but with the middle name Justin Case.
Yeah, this person is on the ballot. And I was super intrigued as I went down the list, and I thought, what the hell? No, I'm kidding. That's a Photoshop. But I did want to show you guys that is on my ballot. That is my hand as I'm going through and thinking. And so, of course, the graphic of what would Lucifer Everjoy look like in the office, I guess he would look like that. So anyway, yeah, I guess happy civic duty voting tomorrow night, everybody. Any other comments on that, you guys?
Yes, I think there's another slide that has another ballot that you might want to consider when you're voting.
Okay, let's look at this. I'll look on my big screen so I can see it. Oh, okay. I love it. I love it. You made yourself the vice president, huh?
Yes, a listener had sent this to me, and they did whatever you have to do to a ballot. It's probably a federal crime, so I won't give out their name. President Lucifer, but the real Lucifer, because I'm just sick of all politicians, which apparently Lucifer's all over the place in this election. Yeah. And vice president, though, Radio Free Mormon.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's not too late to write you in, I guess.
Not too late. Not until tomorrow.
Oh, look at that. There you go.
The RFM Real sign.
And I told you
of those signs in people's yards.
I told you I would happily be your VP if you'll just bring me a hot cup of coffee every morning to the office.
Done, my friend. Done.
Nice.
I have people who will do that.
Great.
Interns.
I love it.
All right. So tomorrow's a big day, and everybody have a great day tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Please join us next week for the Mormon Newscast. And I don't know, but that a large segment of that, if not all of it, will be given over to looking at the movie Heretic, which is a big deal and which will have come out then. And I plan on seeing it before Monday. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I will be watching it this weekend in Lehi, Utah.
Wow, you already know where? Do you have tickets already?
No, but I already have plans.
You better get tickets. Like I got mine for Thursday night. It is selling out everywhere in Lehi area.
Hotcakes.
Get them.
Wow.
Get them as soon as we get off the
Is
show.
it Megaplex that you guys have there?
Yeah, it's at Thanksgiving Point, right off the freeway. It's a giant megaplex, really awesome. You can get dinner and all kinds of stuff to do around in that area. In fact, if you get there early, you could go to the Tree of Life sculpture garden, which is brand new at Thanksgiving Point, and they have like 130 Book of Mormon sculptures that you can walk through. And one I posted about it on social media looks very like Tim Ballard and his wife Catherine. They're Book of Mormon characters, but their faces, and I don't know if it's a tribute or a shout out, but I need to get over there to look at it in person. I've seen some pictures and it looks exactly like them.
Does it look very like them?
Exactly like them.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I've never been there, so.
Yeah.
What show are you going to see, Rebecca?
Which one?
Yeah.
Which time?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not seeing it in Lehi. I'm seeing it in Farmington.
I got you.
But I was debating which direction I was going to see it. And I was looking in Lehi and I was like, oh my gosh, it's filling up. So probably because we've been talking about it on the Mormon Newscast, right? We have that much pull nationwide. Everybody get your tickets.
And everybody should watch it before next Monday evening, because I don't know how we're going to talk about it without going into the plot.
I feel like maybe we should do some kind of live where people can like join us and talk about it. That might
Why
be
don't we just go into the movie theater with a laptop and live stream,
Oh,
or a phone.
like
Just live stream
Seinfeld,
the whole
right?
movie.
Like Kramer with the trench coat and the
Yes. That wouldn't be violating any laws, would it?
Oh no, not at all. I think it's perfect.
Yeah, we'd be fine with that.
Copyright strike number 2.
Number 2.
Oh no, don't even say that. Oh my gosh.
This one is for professionals only. All right, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining us. Please join us next Monday at 6:00 p.m. Mountain Time for another episode of the Mormon Newscast. Good night, everyone.
Boyd Ginspacker here. That's a wrap. That's this week's edition of the Mormon Newscast. We appreciate you tuning in and sharing this time with us. Keep the conversation going and stay informed on all things Mormonism. Until next week, wishing you peace and joy. See you next Monday at 6 p.m. on the Mormon Newscast. And no matter what they say, I never did touch my little factory.